You're listening to Luke's English Podcast. For more information, visit teacherluke.co.uk. Hello, dear listeners, and welcome back to the podcast. I hope you're doing well today. Are you doing well? You all right? Sorry, what? You're fine? Yeah? Not too bad? Great. Fantastic. I'm glad that you're doing okay. Now then, let me just say a few words before we begin, and this is not going to be a massive introduction. I know it's an Amber and Paul episode. You want to get to the Amber and Paul action, but I will not be talking for ages. I do, though, need to say a couple of things just before we start in order to prepare you for what you're going to hear in this episode so you can understand it better and really make the most of it. So, the pod pals, Amber and Paul, are back. Yay! Huge audience of people all cheering and clapping. Just in case you don't know, Amber Minogue and Paul Taylor are my English comedian friends who also live in Paris. They've been on the podcast many times in the past, but not since May this year, so it's been a while, but now they are back. This episode was recorded a couple of weeks ago, not in my flat as usual, but on location at one of the world's most famous museums, the Louvre. The Louvre in Paris. The Louvre, that's how we say it in English. Yes, the Louvre. You probably know it. The Louvre. Yes, that is my English pronunciation of the place. I wonder how you pronounce it where you are from. In French, I think it's like the Louvre, right? The Louvre or Le Louvre. Let's hear Madame Google say that for us.
Le Louvre.
Very nice.
Le Louvre.
Le Louvre. Okay, but generally in English we call it the Louvre. So, during the episode, you will hear the three of us walking around parts of the museum, describing the things that we're looking at, including some very famous pieces that you will definitely know. The art that we talk about comes from four main periods in history. There are marble sculptures from the Hellenistic period of ancient Greece. That's about 2,000 years ago, give or take a few hundred years. So, marble sculptures from ancient Greece. And some French medieval paintings from about 1,000 years ago. That's the medieval period. And then some Renaissance era paintings from about 500 years ago, mainly by Italian artists, including a certain portrait by Leonardo da Vinci, not Leonardo DiCaprio, not this time. Yes, a certain portrait by Leonardo da Vinci. I think you know which one I mean. Yes, I'll just say it. The Mona Lisa, of course. And we'll be talking about that painting in some detail. We mention it briefly as we walk past it at one point, but then we come back to talk about it more. So keep listening for that if you want a bit of Mona Lisa chat. We didn't chat with the Mona Lisa. Hi, Mona. Is it Mona or Lisa? I don't know what your first name is. How are you today? It's hard to tell how you are. Are you happy? We don't know. It's enigmatic. She's enigmatic, isn't she? So anyway, we do talk about the Mona Lisa in some detail, so keep on listening to get to the Mona Lisa bit. We also talk about some impressive French paintings from the early 19th century too, and that's about 100 years ago, the early 19th century. So watch out for descriptive language and also general knowledge about the various periods of art on display, the ways they were created, what they mean, or how they can be interpreted, and how they fit into history. Now, this might be challenging for you, depending on your level of English, so be prepared. It all goes quite quickly. We talk quite fast because we are in a little bit of a rush to kind of get from one piece to the next. And there's background noise. I recorded the whole thing on my handheld audio recorder, so I had to move the microphone between me and Amber and Paul. I think I managed to do okay, but it might make things slightly more difficult to follow than normal. Fast talking, background noise, and also references to specific artwork that you can't see unless you're looking at them too. If you would like to see the sculptures and paintings that we're talking about, then have a look at the episode page for this one on my website, where I've added photos of the things we're talking about, or check out the video version of this on YouTube. It's not a full video because I didn't have a camera with me, I just had a microphone. But I've added photos into the video which will appear as you listen, so you can at least be looking at the same things that we were looking at while recording. And I do recommend looking at pictures of the work that we're describing. It'll help you understand this, and it will help you contextualize the language we're using, which is obviously important. Also, watch out, there is some strong language, I mean swearing, rude words. Of course, it's an Amber and Paul episode. There's usually a bit of swearing. Most of you are fine with that. In fact, a lot of you are going, fantastic, great, we love all the rude words, please. Fine, great. So most of you are fine because you know that that's what happens when friends chat together. But if you're sensitive to strong language, or if you're listening to this with a group of young learners, maybe, if you're a teacher and you've decided, an episode of Luke's English podcast all about art that you find in the Louvre, this would be perfect for my class of, 12-year-olds or something. Who knows? So if that's you and you're listening to this with a group of young learners, then, be warned, there is some strong language ahead, including at least one use of the C word. And if you're not sure what that is, if you're thinking, what's the C word, Luke? If you're not sure, then listen to episode 83 of my podcast, which is a complete guide to swearing in English. That's me and my brother James describing in some detail all of the rudest words in British English. So if you love the rude words, then that's the one for you, episode 83. I must say thanks to the Pod Pals for their involvement here. Especially Amber, who was our tour guide for this trip, and she does the lion's share of the explaining. She's a registered tour guide in Paris, and she brings a lot to the table here because she has a lot of knowledge about this museum and the artefacts that can be found there. So thanks to Amber. And just a reminder for you, if you like Amber's voice and you want to listen to her talking more about the history of Paris, you're in luck because she has her own podcast. It's called Panam Podcast, Paname, Panam Podcast, and each episode is about a different aspect of Parisian history. There are loads of fascinating stories and atmospheric sound effects, and it's all written and recorded by Amber herself. Panam Podcast is the name, and the website is panampodcast.com. Panam, P-A-N-A-M-E, that's kind of a nickname for Paris. Also, if you want more Amber, Paul and Luke action, then check out Paul Taylor's Happy Hour Live. That's Paul's weekly YouTube live stream. Specifically, the episode recorded on Monday the 6th of December. This is Paul's weekly YouTube live stream, which I've just said. And on Monday the 6th of December, his guests were Amber and me. So you don't have to, obviously you've missed it because this is you're probably listening to this after the 6th of December. If you're listening to this before the 6th of December, then congratulations, you have found a way to travel through time. But in any case, you can't watch it live unless you have a time machine. But you can watch the replay. So you can search YouTube for Paul Taylor's Happy Hour Live. That's his channel, and then find the episode from Monday the 6th of December. That's the one with Amber and me. Okay, so you can watch the replay on Paul's channel. Okay, that's enough from me now, except that I really hope you enjoy coming with us on this cultural trip, that you're able to follow it, and that, like Paul and me, you learn some things from the experience. I will chat to you again briefly at the end, but now let's head down to the Louvre, just a 10-minute bike ride from my flat here in Paris, to meet up with Amber and Paul. And here we go. Amber and Paul are on the podcast. Amber and Paul are on the podcast. Amber and Paul are on the podcast. Amber and Paul are on another podcast. Paul's a very funny boy. His laugh I very much enjoy. Amber's got a lovely voice. If I could choose an accent, hers will be my choice. Yeah. Oh, it sounds different, doesn't it, listeners? I'm joined this time, everyone will be glad to know, by Amber and Paul, who are standing right in front of me now. And of course, I'm going to start with Paul. Paul, what's the situation?
Hello, listeners. We are currently at the Louvre Museum. We are situated currently right underneath the pyramid. If you type in Louvre Museum into Google, and you'll see the glass pyramid, we are standing directly underneath it with Amber as well.
Hello. Yes, we're here.
What are we doing here in the? This is a podcast from the Louvre, not a podcast from the loo. Had to do that. Just for traditional reasons. So what are we doing here, Amber?
We are going on a guided tour. I'm taking you and Paul on a guided tour of the Louvre.
And so you have knowledge, don't you? You're blessed with knowledge. Are you not like a registered tour guide? What's your status as a tour guide?
Yes, I'm a professional tour guide. So I have the professional piece of paper, a flimsy piece of paper from the government saying that I'm allowed to take you around in the Louvre. And it's exciting because you've been here before, but Paul...
I've never been in the Louvre. I lived for 2 years, a 3-minute walk away from here.
Really?
Yeah, and I used to work... 100 metres down that way at the Apple store at the Louvre, and I've never set foot in. I've been in underneath this bit here because you don't need to pay for it, but I've never actually set foot in the museum, so I don't know what to expect. So I'm kind of excited about it. Also, I'm excited because we're doing it super quickly, whereas every time I've had friends coming to visit me and they're like, "Oh, I'll go to the Louvre," I'm like, "Well, I'll see you later then," and then they come back 7 hours later, and so I'm excited to do it in the time of this podcast.
Is this the biggest museum in the world, Amber?
It depends what you read. Yes, I thought it was, but then sometimes you'll read it's the Hermitage in Russia, and sometimes they'll say the Met's got a bigger collection, but I think it's the most visited. It's definitely one of the biggest, and I think it's got the most diverse collection.
So they measure biggest museum in like square footage, in amount of art that there is here, amount of people. Okay.
Yeah, it depends what you read. Anyway, so listen, look, before we go in, do you know what to expect?
Well, a little bit, yes, but I would also like to just define what the Louvre is and what's in it. So what is the Louvre? And am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yes, you're pronouncing it. Well, it's an art museum. It's a museum full of art and artefacts.
I sort of say that, I kind of knew that, but there might be, there's one person listening who's like, but what is Louvre? I don't understand.
And so, it's in the walls of the Palais Royal. No, Palais... Yeah.
No, Amber's shaking her head.
So a palace at some point.
Yes, exactly. Well, should we get into that and go in?
Musée du Louvre.
We'll get into that in a moment, but essentially, the Louvre is full of
cunts. And we are the 3 biggest ones in here.
Now, in terms of the work that you can find here, that was a heavy C-bomb that dropped out of nowhere there. Pow!
I know. You might have to bleep that one out.
Let's just pick ourselves up off the ground after that. So, but what's in it?
Well, you know what you're going to see, don't you? The most famous piece in the museum, of course, is the Mona Lisa. Both of you know that, even if you've never been. Yeah. Do you know of any other things?
But, I mean, is it just art, or are there historical artefacts in here too? I mean, is it like the British Museum, which is like artefacts from different civilizations, or is it just art by French artists?
No, it's art, artefacts, sculptures, different periods, a big Egypt section. We're not going to see it all, Luke. We're only going to see the highlights, which does tend to be the sort of French stuff, the Renaissance stuff.
Even French?
Well,
who drew it? He's not fucking French.
Leonardo da Vinci.
He's not French, is he?
No, but he was living in France when he died.
Right, okay. And did he paint that in France?
No.
Okay. But she was French?
No.
Oh, okay. None of it's French. There's nothing France about it.
Why is the Mona Lisa in France?
Are we going to do the whole tour here?
No, we're not. I was going to say, Paul, these are good questions, but have you not seen that documentary film called The Da Vinci Code?
Do you know what? Before we move on, because it actually happens here in the film, I think it's towards the end of that film, something happens where the camera goes through the upside down pyramid, which is over there, and into the thing to go to the tomb,
right?
Mary Magdalene's tomb or whatever. That is where the stockroom for the Apple store used to be. So in reality, where that was filmed, there were just iMacs and MacBook Pros and iPhones all stacked up with a couple of people running around. That's the truth.
Not quite the romantic and mysterious version you get in the film, The Da Vinci Code. But all right, so You could. How much time could you spend here? Could you spend your entire life here?
Look, you could just spend days and days and days and months and years and forever. There's so much to see and learn about. We're going to try and do it in an hour. We're going to do the highlights according to what most people expect to see. We're not going to see it all, so it's some of the highlights and some of the things that I think are interesting, and we're going to try and do it quite quickly.
That's cool. I'm excited because I don't even know what else there is here apart from Mona Lisa, because I'm not a big artist.
So Paul is sort of what's the word for it? A complete novice.
What's the word for it?
Well, I wasn't going to drop the C-bomb again. I think one is enough for at the moment. But so you're a complete novice. I know one or two things, but really not very much. I don't know a lot about French art and culture. Really, I should. It would be useful for me. When I take my citizenship test, I'll need to know some of that stuff. But Amber, yes, you're the master. You're the expert here. So we will be learning from you as we go through this.
We will try. Well, listen. Okay. Well, I can tell you what. We're going to start. So the Louvre is divided into 3 wings. You've got Richelieu, Denon, and Sully. Sully has a lot of the Egyptian stuff. Denon is where the main paintings are, the sort of famous paintings and things like that. But I'm going to take us through Sully because we get to see some underground bits which I think are quite interesting and important. So we're going to go through Sully, even though we're going mainly to Denon, and we're not going to go to Richelieu. We don't have time.
Okay, quick question. Who or what is Denon, Sully and Richelieu? Richelieu is a dude?
Yeah.
Because I know that there's like metro stations named after him. The other 2, are they people or are they places?
I think they're people. I think they are...
Captain Sully, the one that landed...
You mean Tom Hanks again?
Tom Hanks, who
Sully.
landed...
Sully from the movie Sully.
Is that the one that they landed the plane on the Hudson?
I don't think that
Doesn't
a wing.
matter.
I don't think a wing of the Louvre is named after a Tom Hanks film. Although we do have the Da Vinci Code connection.
Oh yeah. Of course.
So maybe I wonder if Tom Hanks has ever been here.
Beyonce filmed here. Beyonce's video was filmed here. Lupin, they filmed here. Yeah.
The TV series, the Netflix original TV series, Lupin. So we have to show our tickets here, I suppose.
Amber's come very prepared with the tickets already printed out. She's our tour guide.
We're basically just like following her around like idiots. So we're currently going up an escalator. It's very exciting going on an escalator. Do you ever get excited anymore on an escalator? I used to when I was a kid. Like, oh, an escalator! But these days, it's all I avoid them normally.
I get excited to see if people fall over on them. That gets me excited.
Yeah, because then they just keep falling and falling and falling and falling and falling. That's Dimitri Martin joke.
Oh, is it?
Yes. I fell over on an escalator and I just kept falling and falling and falling and falling. Okay, we're going to go through the ticket gate, scanning our QR codes here. Merci. Check out the French listeners. Did you hear that? Oh, Amber's got
access to Amber's piece of paper card that she had to show. It really is a piece of paper.
It's like a passport, but it's a piece of paper in a very flimsy plastic jacket.
I bought that flimsy plastic jacket. They just give you the cardboard.
That's amazing. Just like everything else that's official in France, your driving license, your ID card, it's all flimsy shit.
Well, I don't know. Like these days, they've got some nice plastic laminated cards.
It's true.
But that's a fairly recent development. So here we are. Amber says, don't ask me about that. Oh my goodness.
Oh yes.
Wait, we've got to describe that. So as we walk through here into, which one? Sully. There are various, what do you call that? What's it called? A fresque? A sculpture. And, okay, so it's basically a woman with one of her boobs out, and there's a man next to her, and he appears to have part of the boob in his mouth.
It's basically a bearded person, someone with a beard breastfeeding, which isn't great.
What's all that about? We don't know, but what is it? Amber, you said to me earlier that there's quite a lot of tits in this museum.
Well, yes, there's a lot of tits. There's the Italian section, a lot of virgins, and then the French section, a lot of tits.
Tits and virgins. Okay, that's what they should put on the poster. They won't, but if it was it's obviously a very classy and respectable establishment. This is the height of French culture, so we don't mean to lower the tone with reference to things like boobs and so on and so forth, but we probably will.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are just sort of walking through these rooms with high ceilings.
Very well kept, very well renovated.
Yes.
Oh, hello.
Oh, suddenly we're walking into an area where there are very old walls. Very old walls. Amber, what are these old walls around us?
This is why we came into the Sully, because this is the oldest part of the Louvre, and these are the medieval walls, like you said, because it starts out as a fortress which protects the west side of Paris. So this was a big fortress built by Philippe Auguste, keeping out the English, 100 Years' War, all that kind of stuff. And they sort of found this when they dug out, the underground carousel bit. They discovered these original walls.
So these are the original walls. They haven't just rebuilt them inside the museum.
No, but they look so clean. They look like they're sort of made up. But these are the original walls. So these are like, the Louvre there's 800 years of history here. So here we've got the old original walls. We would have been in the moat. You can see a picture of what the Louvre used to look like.
What is a moat?
It's the stuff that goes around like a protective wall, which pit, which kind of goes around a castle.
Often full of water, the moat. So you got, there's a picture, okay, so you got the one.
Paris.
Yes.
This was the walls of Paris on the outside. You can see this was the outside of Paris, and it's just like this old medieval castle. Like medieval castles look, it's got these towers which defend, it's got no real windows, it's got this inner keep, and it's got this moat, which is where we are.
We're standing in the moat.
We're standing in the moat. So back in the day, many years ago, when? The medieval period, sort of like, 1,000 years ago, something like that?
Well, it's sort of the 1100s.
Yeah, okay. So, in the region of 1,000 years ago, 900 years ago, we would have been standing in water at this point.
This is already why I prefer Paris to Rome, is that when you go through Rome, you see stuff like this, and there's nothing that shows you what it used to look like, and it drove me crazy. I hated Rome.
Or got some Romans who are already but they're already waggling their hands in the air right now, Paul, because you said that. Okay, but 1 point for France and 0 points for Italy there. Ooh, who's going to win in the battle between Rome and Paris? And they said that these walls might have been used to keep out the English. Well, they failed now, haven't they? There's 3 of them in here. 3 of us have...
We've infiltrated.
You have infiltrated. Exactly. Okay, but these are very impressive medieval walls. It's amazing.
As we're going through the Louvre, this is the oldest part. And like I said, it was a fortress, and then it became a royal residence, and then it became a more spruced up royal residence, and then it became a museum after the revolution. And as we're going past the walls, you can see that people have chiseled stuff into them. Can you see the hearts?
Where people have chiseled kind of graffiti into them. There are little there are hearts that have been sort of marked or chiseled into the walls here. So when do these date back to?
Well, they're original. So it's when these are the stonemasons. So you're paid.
Sorry, you say they're original, but I mean they just look like any other hearts to me.
But there'll be different symbols. So these are the stonemasons. They were paid per stone that they laid and cut. Mm-hmm. And so each different team had their own symbol. And that's why, some of them are upside down. So one team cuts them, one team lays them. And that's how they're paid. So you can see up there's crosses.
Yeah.
And so, this is obviously the heart team we're working at this point.
Oh, okay. Okay, and my joke about them being original just died on its bottom there. Did you hear that, listeners?
They found this place when they excavated it all. What was it covered with?
It was just underground.
What, just covered in earth?
Well, that's a good question, because there's this sort of funny thing where you sort of think, well, it was the road, or at one point, but slowly things get buried. They just sort of get compressed and go down, and I think just stuff builds up on top of them. But this was also partly lower than, might have been sort of some of the foundation sort of areas.
Yeah, sometimes these sorts of things are built inside a pit. So the pit creates the moat, and then they build the walls up from the bottom of the pit.
So they already built this lower than the actual street level at the time.
I expect so. Yeah.
What's crazy, this is the first time I'm actually seeing like a castle indoors.
Yeah, I was just thinking that too. There's like these walls of this castle, but then there's a ceiling on the top. So it's quite odd, yeah. But it's a good point you made, Paul, about how sometimes when you visit these old sites, it's very hard to imagine what the whole place would have looked like at the time. You have to kind of use your imagination quite a lot, don't you? Okay,
this is a mini model of the Louvre, and so you get
Hold on. We're sorry, we are standing in front of a glass cabinet.
Yeah.
And inside that glass cabinet there is a mini model of the Louvre, as Amber pointed out. So Tell us more.
Well, it's a mini model. So the bits that you see are completely gone. You know, they're underground. They were completely sort of destroyed and made way for the modern Louvre. And even that modern Louvre is mainly gone. So you can see it's like a horseshoe shape. There used to be another building which closed it off completely, and that was burnt down. So it would have been a rectangle, but it was built up slowly. So it was a castle, it was a defensive place, and then it was a royal residence. And then Francois I, during the Renaissance, he made it a bit more fancy. Then Louis XIV made this end, the cour carré, the square bit at the end. He made that very fancy, and then stopped bothering because he went to Versailles. And then Napoleon the third, he sort of finishes off these wings, although this part, the Grand Gallery, so this really, really, really long part, originally joined the old original part of the Louvre, which is here, right down to where the new palace was down there, and it's massive, and that's where all the Italian paintings are.
Where are we right now? Are we in this square? Are we underground in this middle bit?
We're sort of in the Cour Carré. No, we're sort of, I think, about here, because we're going to.
Because you know the other thing, like what we've just seen in there, they have a similar thing in the carousel. Like when near the food court, there's all that sort of bit. I just don't understand how this is underground.
I think, again, it's just because they originally built the original fortress would have been built in a pit, right. I guess. I mean, I'm speculating, but it must have been built in a pit and then built up from the pit, and the pit then creates the moat, which they fill with water, and then essentially then you've got a deep moat of water and then walls rising out of it, and probably, I don't know if it was water.
They just filled it in with shit.
Probably, and it's just all become filled in over time, and now that it's been excavated again.
This is a sphinx, which warns you, if you turn this way, you're going to get lost in the Egyptian section. We're not going there. We're going to go this way to the Greek section.
So we've just climbed up a little flight of stairs, and facing us there is a sphinx, like the ones that you have in Egypt. And yes, as Amber says, this means, watch out, there's the Egyptian section. If you turn left, you could get lost in all of that, but that's not what we're choosing to do today.
I'll be honest, that one looks better than the one I saw last week in front of the pyramids in Egypt. I was in Egypt last week.
Hold on, let's talk about Egypt, because someone was just there.
Okay, come on, give us the summary of your visit to Egypt, Paul.
Honestly, I was a bit disappointed at how run down and how little fucks they give about their heritage.
Meaning they don't care.
Everything is run down. Everything, the pyramids are run down. There's trash cans, bins, rubbish bins all around. They don't care. It's really weird.
That's a pity, isn't it?
Because it's not because the pyramids are not in the desert. They're in the city. I mean, the city is around the pyramids. Mm-hmm. And then, the pyramids are the beginning of the Sahara on the east side.
Yeah.
And then it goes all the way to the west. But it was very, it's very run down. It's not taken care of, and it's just I'm just talking about just the bit around the pyramids where there's buildings that look like they've been bombed recently, and then just people leaving their shit. There's a car,
the shell of a car.
No, what do you call it? Like a car graveyard, like a
scrapyard.
There's a scrapyard stuck to the pyramids, right
next to it.
Yeah, 50 meter. It's weird.
That is a pity. I wonder what the reasons are for that. There must be complex social, political, and cultural and economic reasons for that. Anyway, but you went to Egypt and you did a show there, didn't you?
No, I just jumped out of an aeroplane.
Well, okay. And survived.
Yeah, I did some skydiving above the pyramids.
What for? Just because you wanted to?
Just for fun. I got invited there by the world champions of skydiving.
What?
There's a couple called Greg and Karine, and they invited me and another comedian out there to jump out of a military aircraft, the C3 Hercules, C3 whatever it is.
Yeah.
C3 C130. Doesn't matter what it is. Yeah. It's the thing where the back door opens really wide, and then you just jump out.
We've seen them in movies where there's always an action scene where Arnold Schwarzenegger jumps out of the back of it or something.
Exactly.
James Bond.
Yeah, if you've seen one of the recent Mission Impossibles, it's basically exactly what he did is what we did.
Okay.
Except there was 80 of us, and I was the first one out of the plane. Well, no, the camera guy was the first one out of the plane, and then I was next out.
Quickly, what's it like flying? What's it like flying? I mean, you weren't flying, you were falling, but what's it like skydiving?
It's if you've never done it, I highly recommend it. It's like a really, really amazing roller coaster. If you like doing roller coasters, I highly recommend doing skydiving because it feels the same of like you going down, but it feels like for a minute of just like, oh, what the fuck is going on? But also I was a little bit distracted by the world champions who were flying around me and doing like different figures and doing like cool stuff around me. So I was a little bit distracted by that. So there was so much information, so much new information my brain had never had before that I think it's very difficult to take in, but it was amazing, yeah.
I've done sort of like big bungee jumps in New Zealand and stuff, and it's a bit like that. Your brain can't handle it really, and what happens is you just get like this big rush of adrenaline and euphoria, and when you land, you're like, whoa, I want to do it again. Yeah. Okay. Great.
Have you ever done a skydive?
No, but I did go paragliding.
Oh.
That was pretty good. I enjoyed that.
Oh, yeah?
Right.
Okay, so we've just walked through a section with lots of statues. Can you tell us a brief thing? Where did the statues come from? Do you know?
Well, this section is mainly Greek statues. Some of them are copies because a lot of Greek statues got destroyed or lost or melted down. Lots of them are in bronze. And so there were lots of Roman copies. But we're at one of the most famous pieces at the Louvre. There are 3 very, very famous ladies at the Louvre. And this is the first one we've come across. And both of you already know her, I think.
I've seen
Paul?
I've seen it. I don't know what name. Has she got a name?
She does have a name.
Is it Venus?
Exactly, it is.
Oh, Paul, pow, well done. 1 point.
You do know.
Amazing.
You do know.
5 points to Paul for recognising Venus here.
Yeah, she's the original model in the Venus razor adverts.
Oh, yes? I don't know what you're talking about.
You know the women's brand of razors called Venus. I'm your Venus, I'm your fire, your desire. She was the original. It was a joke. It doesn't.
Okay. See, sometimes other people's jokes fall flat as well.
And for once, I had an English reference that Luke did not.
I got it. I knew that.
Anyway.
So let me tell you. So this is the Venus de Milo. It's a very, very famous piece of Greek art. She's the Venus. We think of her as Venus because of the position that she's standing in. And you'll see it in nearly all of the statues that we've gone past. You know the name of the position?
No, I don't.
So there's only a few art words which are used really often that even if you're not that arty, you might know them, because I'm not especially arty, but it's called contrapposto. So it means standing on one leg, so with one leg kind of up. So she's kind of got one leg up and one leg down. And you'll see that
on Instagram quite a lot.
On Instagram, and this is like the Venus stance. So a lot of those Greek statues will be in that, and paintings done of her and other Venuses, and so that's how we often recognise it as Venus.
Okay.
Although problematically, we don't have her arms, and
we don't know what her arms are doing.
We don't know what her arms are doing. I mean, was she picking her nose? Was she waving at someone? Was she holding something? But often the statues taking a selfie. So, but those arms give us an indication as to what goddess they're representing, because they would have been holding something attributed to that goddess. So we think it's Venus. And it's like an incredible piece, the way it's sculpted, this sort of amazing drapery, her body, she's a goddess. And so I find something very interesting about her face. If you look at it, it's both human and not human. There's something beautiful about it, but it's also it's not neutral, but it's sort of not, it's not your gran, it's not your aunt, it's not your sister, it's no one you recognise. She's not a woman, she's a goddess.
She's kind of otherworldly as well. And is she made of marble?
Yes, and so she's made of a number of pieces of marble. And you can see that there are things missing. She would have worn a hairband, she would have worn a band around her arm. When you get closer, you'll be able to see the holes where that was taken out. So a reason that those Greek statues were destroyed, I mean, there's lots of reasons, but also if they were having precious things on them, people took them, they melted them down. And the same with any culture which is sort of destroyed. People destroy the things that they hold dear. One of the questions that Paul asked earlier, I think, is really pertinent when we think about the Venus de Milo. So when you see her, I don't know what your reaction is. I mean, what is your reaction?
My reaction is like, yeah, I've seen that before a million times, so it just seems instantly familiar.
Yeah. Go on. No, I was just going to say, yeah, and also, like, why is it more important than the other ones that are in this room?
And that's a really pertinent question. Why are those 3 pieces so important? Especially when you see them and you think, yeah, it's all right. I mean, she's not not interesting, but you feel like you need to be kind of an expert to find her immediately interesting. Like, you don't look at her and think, oh, she's better than another piece. And it's true, there are other pieces which are better preserved or done in the same way. And it's this, what we were talking about earlier, of like luck and talent and opportunity kind of coming together. And the Venus de Milo is an example of this. Like the other famous pieces in the Louvre, a lot of them, you know, she was brought into the Louvre at a time where a lot of the stuff, so Napoleon comes into power and he steals lots of stuff. And
From
all around.
the world.
From the world. And then when the monarchy is re-established, so Napoleon, the Bonaparte, the first emperor, the monarchy is re-established, they send a lot of those things back. And the Venus de Milo comes into the Louvre collection just after that. And so they've kind of got a dearth of cool stuff. And so people are like, oh, look at this new thing we've got, the Venus de Milo, she's looking amazing. And so people come to see it. But of course, where is she? Well, she's in Paris in the 1820s, a time when there's a lot of art and a lot of famous people and a lot of famous artists copying her and drawing her. And so she becomes famous. If she'd have been sent to a small museum, we wouldn't know her. It's because she's in Paris, the time that she came, because she was here at the time that she came. And
So
she's an interesting piece as well.
She was in the right place at the right time. Yeah.
And now she's really famous, and she's not without interest.
Okay.
Can I just describe the scene as well a little bit, listeners, just to make sure that you know are fully immersed in this experience. So yes, we're in, I guess, the end of what looks like a long corridor with these rounded high ceilings, white marble statues in various positions, and then at the end of the corridor there is a sort of a fenced-off area with a low barrier and a plinth, and there is Venus standing there. No arms, but in this position. What was the position again?
Contrapposto.
Contrapposto, in my English accent. Contrapposto. And
Sounds like you're ordering a pizza, mate. I'll have the quattro formaggio. I'll have the contrapposto, please.
and there are various people milling around, staring at her, taking photographs, taking selfies.
A lot of people taking selfies. What I find weird about selfies in a museum like this is you're taking a selfie, not even looking at the art. You've got your back to the. Look at these girls here. They're taking a selfie. They haven't even looked at it. They've just taken a selfie with their back to the thing.
Exactly. It's ironic, isn't it? They've got their
Famous because people they recognise her, they take a selfie with her, they post it on Instagram, which is fine, and then people are like, oh, I saw that, and then when they see it, they're like, oh, I recognise it. And
she's gone viral, basically.
it's gone viral.
She's the modern day Instagram model.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, we've got to, you know.
But it is ironic, though, isn't it, that people come to this and they stand with their backs to the item, and they actually look at it through their phones with themselves in the foreground. Isn't the modern world a fascinating place, listeners? There's a lot of marble in here. My God, the entire thing seems to be made of marble. It's just incredible. Okay, so we're moving into another chamber here, another high ceiling, lots of people milling around. A fresco, that was the word I was looking for before. A fresco.
Fresco, though, because it was a sculpture.
What's the difference between a sculpture and a...
It might have been a fresco.
See, for me, a fresco is one that's got one side of it's completely flat and it could be put on the front of a building. Hello, listeners. I hope you're enjoying this trip to the Louvre with Amber and Paul. Now, I just would like to give a couple of definitions of things that we're talking about here that we aren't completely sure of. So a fresco and a sculpture and then a relief as well. So a fresco is actually a type of wall painting. So not a sculpture, but a painting done on a wall. The term fresco comes from the Italian word for fresh, because plaster is applied to the walls while still wet, you see, and then the painting is done on the wet plaster. So it's kind of fresh. The plaster is still fresh and the painting is done on the fresh, wet plaster. That's a fresco, okay? A sculpture is something that most people know, I would say. It's a work of art that's produced by carving or shaping stone, wood, clay, or other materials. That's a sculpture. Okay, for example, the Venus de Milo, which we talked about just a few moments ago, that's a sculpture and it's made from marble. And then also a third word is a type of sculpture which is attached to a flat piece of stone, which can then be displayed on a wall, and that's a relief. Phew. That is a relief, isn't it? I mean, I'm glad that we cleared that up. So a fresco, a type of wall painting, a sculpture, something made from a carved stone usually, and a relief is a sculpture attached to a flat piece of stone which can then be displayed on a wall. Okay, all right, let's carry on.
They need to get the Swiffer out on this thing.
What's that?
They need to get the Swiffer out. The dust, it's dusty as hell.
What's going on here? Wonder why it's so dusty. Someone's not doing their job, eh? I'm not naming any names, but there is a man here who appears to be an official, but
He's just
it's not
signs.
it's not his job. He's just moving signs around and looking like he's busy. Nice, yeah, we know what you're doing, mate. Just walk around making it look like you're busy while the work isn't being done. Anyway, just joking. Amber.
So this is the ballroom. So this is one of the older parts of the Louvre, and you can see this is balcony is where they'd play some music and everyone have a lovely dance, and it's beautiful, and it looks, more like a room that you could use or do something in, because some of the places in the Louvre are so enormous they don't feel like spaces, like human spaces. They feel like a gallery. But anyway, this is the ballroom. H for the Henry's got this big fireplace.
Wait, you're now describing this. Is it a fresco or is it a statue?
It's a fireplace decoration.
It's a relief, listeners. Okay, we're describing a relief. It's been sculpted from a large piece of rock, and it's a large piece of stone, and it's a huge statue on the wall above a large and splendid fireplace.
But that's not why we're here.
That's not why we're here.
No, I just came to show you one piece because I think you'll like it.
Okay.
Is this one?
Oh, this is Hermaphrodite endormi, Hermaphrodite sleeping, and it's what we have is a. So the statue shows a lady pretty much naked. There is a loincloth involved, but she's lying on it. But she's completely naked, lying there with her arms crossed in front of her, and her head lying on those arms, and one foot sort of coquettishly, maybe, raised up. And
English word.
coquettish is an English word, yeah. Like, when a girl, I would say, lifts up her leg in a sort of flirtatious manner, but she's lying there and her bum is revealed in all its glory to us, and her bare back.
And she's lying on this gorgeous mattress, which is made of marble, like she is, and it does have that quality that you want to give it a squeeze. It looks really squishy,
It looks really real.
It looks so real. But this piece has been deliberately put here in this position because you have to do a 360 to appreciate it. So let's go.
Let's do that 360. So we're currently the bum is currently facing us. If we walk all the way around, what are we going to see, listeners? If we walk round to the other side, are we going to see some naughty things? I don't know.
Yeah, we are. Look.
Amber. What the... I did not expect that, although she is called Hermaphrodite, so... Yes. Yeah, well, who wants to explain this? Do you want to do it?
Luke.
Well, Paul, do you want to have a go?
Yeah, she has a penis.
And two balls.
And two balls.
Right. So
Yeah, which is, I mean, I'm a big fan of the.
what, the penis?
Yeah, of the 360 aspect of this, where you have to walk around.
It's kind of a comic reveal, isn't it? In a sense, it's like the pull back and reveal almost. It's like, oh, it's just a girl lying with, she's got a nice bum, and then it's like, let's have a look and see what else we can see. And whoa, okay then. Oh, I did not expect that. She's got a willy. Can you tell us anything about this?
I mean, essentially, it's Hermaphroditus. It's Hermaphrodite. So this was the son of Hermes and Aphrodite, and it's a Greek myth, and a lot of it is about people being spliced together and gods and all the rest of it. And he's beautiful, and he goes for a swim, and some sort of nymph or something falls in love with him, and their bodies are bound together. And so we talk about hermaphrodite or anything like this is the dual sex.
Yes, I guess a hermaphrodite is someone who is born with sort of both sets of genitalia. Is that right?
Biologically, it's very rare, but people can be hermaphrodites, so they have both genders. So it might not be both sets of genitalia, but you might have a uterus and a penis. I don't know. It's quite complicated. But this myth is very sort of fashionable in Greece and also Rome, and it's been taken up really interestingly in this piece because it is something which brings that surprise. The piece is so feminine from one side, so smooth and coquettish, as you implied, and even what she's lying in, or they are lying on, is really sort of soft seeming. And then, of course, you have this masculine aspect to the figure, and it's a surprise. But I mean, it's nice because it also reminds you, if you only look at one side of a piece, you're missing something.
There are many sides to almost everything. It's don't take a one-sided view because you'll be missing something.
Exactly, because it does look like there are so many naked women in sculptures. You just think, oh, it's just another naked. You just walk past it and think, oh, just another bottom. But no.
Haha. And your thoughts, Paul? Is this blowing your mind at all, or has your mind already been blown by something else?
I think my mind has been blown for a long time.
That skydive must have been.
Yeah, no, it's good. I'm enjoying doing the tour with an actual human, rather than one of those ear guide things that like a little MP3 player.
Audio guide.
Yeah, an audio guide, an ear guide.
It would be like track number 3. You're standing in front of a statue. Yeah, that.
Now, because we're doing a highlights tour, we can't stop too long at each one, Luke.
Yes, sorry.
I just wanted to stop really briefly here because these are interesting for us as British people. So these are part of the Parthenon frieze.
You've just got to describe exactly what it looks like because otherwise no one knows what we're talking about.
Well, I mean, the Parthenon in Athens, was this, you can see a little model of it over here. So we're in a little room and it's got these friezes which are sort of sculptures which would have been at the top of the Parthenon, which was a big temple in Athens. Mm-hmm. And we've only got a couple here in Paris. And
the rest are in London, I believe, controversially.
And the rest are in London. And Athens has very clearly and very loudly asked for them to be returned. And the circumstances of why they were brought to London and Paris are basically they were taken, they want them back. I mean, look, it's only like a part, and you see this one shows a procession. So it's these young women which are kind of coming up and they're, bringing stuff for this special procession. And it's slightly damaged, we're missing some heads. But, it's interesting like how it's been put together. But in Athens, they've recreated all the missing parts in plaster, and they've asked the British Museum and the Louvre and everywhere else to give them back to Athens. And I totally think that France should, and the British Museum should give them back.
Yeah. If we want to go see these things, we should go to fucking Athens. Why are we coming to France to visit something that's in Athens?
It's something that is a massively important, significant part of Greek culture. But in London and Paris, we're like, no, they should stay in London and Paris. Have you seen James Acaster's Netflix special? He does a fantastic routine.
He has 4 Netflix specials, doesn't he? Isn't there like in 4 parts where he's got 4 different backgrounds?
It's the first part that I'm talking about. He does a routine about basically British colonialism and how he compares it to someone who's just taken your stuff and they're refusing to give it back. Right. I'm planning to do an episode about that actually, one of these days. All right, so we're now swiftly moving through to other parts. Wow, there are some incredible items here. We're walking past a vase. Is that a vase? I've seen that vase before.
Is it vase or vase?
Well, I'd say vase, but some people say vase, but I just wanted to make sure it was definitely the right word. But yeah, it's amazing walking through the Louvre. You're like, I know that. I've seen that before. There's a lot of these things are just in our subconscious. Right, so
that's kind of what I felt.
So hold on, we've just approached a little metal disc on the floor. Go on.
No, this is just quick, but you see these in Paris. These mark the Meridian line. This is a monument to Arago, who plotted the French Meridian line.
What's the Meridian line?
It's like how they measure time, and so they've got Greenwich Mean Time now, which is how we measure time, but the French used to have their own, and there was a big battle between Paris and London as to who would have the mean time. London won. And but they have this all through Paris, these little discs, and it happens to go through the Louvre, so they put it in the Louvre, but it's just, there's nothing about it, like you don't read anything about it. I just like it.
It's a nice little touch.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, what you were saying about you see this stuff and it's in your subconscious. Going back to Egypt, I felt very much like that seeing the pyramids. I was like, yeah, I've seen them so much in photos and videos and documentaries and all this stuff.
Yes.
That when you're in front of them, you're like, yeah, this is everything I thought it would be, except for all like the rubbish and all the crap that was behind it. But you're just like, yeah, all right. I'm also very unimpressionable. Like I think
unimpressionable. You're not impressed easily.
Yeah, it's like stuff doesn't like blow me away as much as I think it might be the fact that I travelled a lot as a kid, and I also like in my previous job at Apple, just travelling all year. Like every city, I'm like, yeah, it's like every other city. Like I don't know. Yeah. I don't appreciate stuff as much as I used to, I think. But yeah, the pyramids was the same sort of thing where you see Venus and you're like, yeah, this is exactly how I thought it would be standing in front of the pyramids.
Yeah. Instantly familiar. Yeah, you do have to use a lot of imagination, I suppose, to kind of like block out all of the other stuff, like, you know, all the people walking around or the car scrapyard, and just to sort of imagine what it might have been like at the time. It's the same when you go to Stonehenge. You know, Stonehenge is basically next to a huge car park and a motorway.
There you go.
And so you
Stonehenge was it was exactly the same feeling. Yeah.
With Stonehenge, you have to imagine that you're approaching it across the countryside, like in some episode of Game of Thrones or something. You know, a large sort of procession of people approaching Stonehenge. It's at the top of a hill, and there would have been other standing stones on the way. And so, when you think about it in context, it would have been a lot more impressive. But you've got to you work with your imagination a lot, I think, in those situations.
Okay, we are stopped at the bottom of the stairs because this is the second very famous piece in the Louvre, and for lots of different reasons, but the way she's been put here in this position is amazing. So you get this like full view. So let's walk up the stairs. And
who is she?
So this is the Winged Victory of Samothrace.
Can I just describe what it looks like? It's a bit like Venus de Milo that we had before, but this is a statue in that same position. What was the position called?
Contrapposto.
So it's contrapposto, but she's got wings, no arms. The arms have come off at some point, and the head as well, but it's very impressive. And as we walk up the stairs, we're looking up at the statue.
Hey, is this 2 out of 3 in this section, or 2 out of 3 in the whole museum? I've never heard of this. I've never seen it. I don't know any of nothing.
Okay, well, you're about to find out, Paul, as Amber tells us.
So, the Winged Victory of Samothrace, she represents Niké, the goddess Niké.
What, Nike, like in the footwear?
Yeah, exactly. Which is victory.
Victory, yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, it's a really interesting piece because she's really amazing. So this is the prow of the ship. So it's this idea, it obviously represents some sort of naval battle that they were victorious in. And she's come and she's landed on this ship. But of course, you know, she could fly away at any moment. You know, victory comes, but victory goes. And the piece itself is amazing because, like, if you look at her body and the drapery, I mean, it looks like she's being blown by the wind. You know, she looks like she could fly. I mean, this is tons of marble we're looking at.
Yes.
But it is so detailed. Like, it looks wet. It looks windswept.
It looks like it's wet and see-through. It looks like the thing that she's wearing is see-through. It's really good.
Exactly. And these wings just, they look like they're moving. You know, she's got this tension between her body, which is solid at the bottom and just so light at the top. And even though we don't have her head and her arms, we still kind of get this powerful feeling of her. Yeah. And I think people really like this piece because it looks so amazing. You know, she's so famous because she kind of looks really cool. Yeah. More cool than a lot of other stuff. And it is partly because of where they've put her and how they've put her. I mean, it's interesting, like, her restoration is different to how they would do today. Like, some of it, one of her wings has been a plaster cast, like they recreated it, they only found one and sort of stuff like this. But, you know, we don't know what her head was doing, we don't know what her arms were doing. But, you know, I feel she, unlike the Venus de Milo, is more impressive just as a piece. You know, she earns her celebrity in a way by being kind of amazing.
Well, what's weird is the room around looks like it's looks like they renovated it yesterday. Like the wall, like this whole room.
It's in very good condition.
The marble floor less so, but the walls look like they've been renovated very recently.
And yeah, when you know, we're talking about what is the appeal of this kind of thing, and how do you know, what makes it good? Well, certainly one of the things that makes this good is just the artistry involved and the level of skill involved, and that is quite marvelous to observe. You know, as you said, the fabric on her body is so well sculpted that it really does look like a very thin piece of fabric that's maybe wet. It's been sprayed by the water from the ocean, and it is incredible mastery of sculpture. And the wings, the detail on the wings, I mean, you're absolutely right. You do get a sense of lightness and weight and texture and all those sorts of things. Absolutely amazing.
Is this the inspiration behind that Titanic scene? Like it must be. They must have taken inspiration from this, where she's got her arms out and she's like on it must be because it's the same thing.
I think you might be right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know, but I mean, it is a really famous piece. But like, it does her wings because she doesn't have arms. We get that feeling that her arms are her wings. I mean, it might look odd if she had arms, but it's sort of like it's Greek. You know, and the Greeks, they love bodies. You know, they start with, you know, they have the Olympics. You know, when you see Greek art, it is all about this adoration of the perfect body and sculpting it and making it and creating it. And I mean, it does. It looks amazing.
Yes.
Because her arm, like her left arm, the one to our right, is severed off like very cleanly. Like it's. I don't know if it was because they've just sanded it down or whatever you...
Maybe they made it look a bit more presentable.
Well, one wing and part of the bust were recreated. So if we'd have found her now, so this was found like 100 odd years ago, we probably would have just placed her as found. But you see, they restored her and they actually restored parts of her so it would hold together. I think that was a good idea because I think it looks much more awesome.
Yeah.
But so that part might well have been part of where it was restored. Right. Let's keep going because we're on our highlights tour.
Okay, we're going to keep moving forward.
2 out of 3, have we?
Of the big three famous ladies.
2 out of 3 of the big 3.
Oh, there's the third one.
Oh, I think we might know which third famous lady we're going to see. We have mentioned this person already.
For a laugh, you should just take people on tours and just on purpose not do the Mona Lisa just to see how angry they get with you. To be like, sorry, why are we...
Oh, what, you wanted to see her? I didn't realise.
The who? The Mona what? I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know if I've seen her. We're walking through into the Salon Carré, which is where they used to do big art exhibitions. This is where we see some of the medieval art, so some of them really famous, like this piece, the
Stigmatisation de Saint François d'Assise and St. Francis of Assisi receiving the Stigmata.
François of Assisi receiving the Stigmata. The only reason I'll point it out really quickly is we're going to go down that really long gallery, down the Renaissance gallery, and there's this sort of feeling that, like, you know, we just looked at something Greek, you know, so old, and it looks so human, you know, so perfect, the body. And then you look at this art by Giotto, and it looks weird and flat and strange, you know, this medieval art.
This is a painting.
It's an altarpiece, which is painted on wood, and it's in gold, and you see Francois of Assisi, and like the perspective is wrong, and people are really impressed with this for lots of reasons. One of the reasons is because they're saying, oh, he starts, you know, using perspective, and it's kind of like people feel that everyone lost how to paint and make things, and then they found it again in the Renaissance. It's more complicated, but this is sort of earlier pieces, and we're going to go down the Italian.
What's the time difference there between the stuff that we've just seen? It's like 1,000 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
this is crazy.
The ancient Greeks were just sort of, around the time of, I may be giving away my ignorance, but around the time of the Roman Empire. So we're talking about, before Christ, and then here we are in the medieval. Is it it's sort of the Renaissance? Sorry.
Pre-Renaissance.
So what kind of year are we talking about?
1100s, 1200s.
Yeah, medieval period. Okay. So we're walking past all this medieval art, and it's, a lot of it's all religious in theme.
Photos.
Exactly.
It's very impressive.
So, okay.
Yeah, this is the Grand Gallery, and like Paul was just saying, you've seen it. This is an iconic kind of view. If you've never been to the Louvre, you've seen this perspective of it. And it's just really, it's full, as we're going to walk down quite quickly because we can't see everything, but it's full of like Italian Renaissance drawings, and so that's basically the Virgin Mary and saints. So if you look left and right, it's just saints, Virgin Mary, and there'll be Jesus, and there'll be Jesus as a baby, and there'll be loads of paintings you recognise. You'll be like, oh, I think I've seen that before.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I've seen that before. They're so big.
This is the corridor where all the French public holidays were created in this gallery right here, because it's all about Jesus.
Yes, that's right. So obviously, we're being flippant about some of this stuff, but we're just, keeping it light. But, I don't know, I feel like we should be maybe speaking in a more respectful tone, but it's okay.
People don't listen to your podcast, Luke, for the respectful tone of it, do they?
Don't know.
Come on, listeners.
Listeners, tell us.
So we're not stopping at a lot of the paintings, which are quite famous, but we'll stop briefly here at these ones because these are very famous. These are by Da Vinci, and France has some of the biggest collection of Da Vinci paintings. He didn't paint that much. He didn't paint that much, draw that much, or make that many frescoes, but each one he did is like the most famous one of all of that things. Like, you know, he's got like a few paintings, and it's like, that's the most famous painting ever.
He's the Beatles of medieval art.
Renaissance art. Yeah, exactly. It's like one fresco, like the Last Supper, the most famous fresco of all frescoes. You know, he's got one drawing. He doesn't have that many drawings, but like that one, you know, the Vitruvian Man, you know, the most famous drawing of all drawings. So he's really kind of, knocks it out the park each time.
Every single time smashes it. So yes, well, I've definitely seen a lot of these before.
Yeah.
I've not seen any of them. Again, it's because I'm not huge. I was never really into art, so I none of them. I recognise none of them. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the fifth is the Mona Lisa.
There's a girl there with the raising it.
But there's 5 paintings. Oh, that one's not his. No. That's kind of awkward.
Embarrassing, right? To share the wall.
But there's a lot of pointing going on here. There's a chap sitting down on a.
He's pointing to the next painting. She's pointing upwards.
There's a chap sitting here with a stick in his hand, and he's sitting on the ground, and there's like nature, like, you know, in nature basically, and he's pointing towards the stick. What's that all about?
Oh, I don't know, but this is from Leonardo's atelier. I just read. So, you know, the Italian artists worked in ateliers, so people
workshops.
Yeah. So we've got the Da Vinci paintings are you've got this one here, which is John the Baptist. The really famous one, which is a copy as well, they've got in the National Gallery in London, which is Madonna on the Rocks. So you've got the Virgin Mary there.
Sounds like a cocktail, doesn't it? I'll have a Madonna on the rocks.
You might know who they are. Let's see. Paul, we'll do some art appreciation. So who is in the painting?
Absolutely no idea.
You do know. Go on.
I literally have no idea.
Well,
did you just say the Virgin Mary? Okay, so it's her.
Yeah, it's her. And then who else is there?
Well, there's two babies, cherubs.
Yeah.
No, are they cherubs or babies?
Babies.
They're just babies.
And another woman. I don't know who. I've got no idea.
Who is the baby? You know who the baby is. It's always Jesus, right?
Okay.
In Italian Renaissance paintings, there's Mary always. You'll often see her in blue, like you'll see a baby, her son, Jesus, and then you'll see John the Baptist, and they are always together. Not always, but often together.
Right. Who's
And
John
so,
the Baptist?
well, John the Baptist, he announces Jesus. You know, he sort of comes before, and so this is John the Baptist. She's got her arms around him, and he's sort of praying.
He announces. What do you mean? He announces Jesus?
Is it a bit like a comedy show? It's like, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage,
He's the warm-up.
Jesus.
And Jesus, he's gonna be there.
He announced him when he was that young, because they're not speaking at age.
No, well, no, they're not speaking.
And
but, you know,
who's the mum? Who's John Baptist's mum then?
God, no, isn't that Mary's mum, Mary's sister, Mary's aunt? I can't remember.
I'm too confused.
Oh, all right, so you don't even know who the people are in the painting.
Just know the children. You always know who they are.
Okay.
You know, they always
So
come
how do you know
together.
that Jesus is that?
Because someone's pointing at him. Basically, you know that in paintings there's a lot of symbolism, and when someone is pointing, they're usually pointing for a very good reason. They're not just like randomly pointing.
Okay.
So one of the girls here is pointing at one of the babies, and that has to be Jesus, doesn't it?
The other one looks like he's ordering a coffee at a shop. He's like, "Excuse me."
He's got his hand. The other baby has got his hand up.
With 2 fingers.
He's blessing. He's blessing
Wait,
them.
hold on. Jesus is this one.
Yeah.
Oh, he's not the one that Mary's holding.
Wait, hold on. I assumed that so there's a girl pointing at one of the babies. I assumed that the baby being pointed at was Jesus, and then the other baby is doing a sort of blessing.
He's blessing. He's doing the blessing. Yeah.
And so it's Jesus that's doing the blessing.
That's right.
Okay. So basically, the girl's like, bless that one over there. That's why she's pointing. It's like the baby's like, I want Jesus. I want to bless someone. She's like, bless him. Bless you.
Exactly. A chew. And I mean, it's interesting because she's in this very unusual space. You know, a lot of these places that you'll see Mary and Jesus and the rest of them are in sort of like quite bucolic or quite ornate places. But here it looks like they're in this cave and it's all sort of dark and unusual. So it's sort of a curious setting, which sets it apart from other paintings.
Yes.
So that's a famous Da Vinci.
Okay.
Guide on a Nintendo Switch.
It looks like it. Someone's got a device there, but it looks like a Nintendo Switch, but I don't know what's going on. Anyway.
This painting, the Belle Ferronnière, which is not actually called the Belle Ferronnière, don't worry about it. It's a very long story, but she's really interesting because she's kind of beautiful portrait, not dissimilar to the Mona Lisa, we could say. I mean, obviously the background's not the same, but this used to be much more famous than the Mona Lisa. Ooh. And everyone was like, oh, this was the painting, because they had this backstory about her, because they thought she was the mistress of the king, and so everyone was like, oh, this was the painting that everyone was really interested in. But she lost her mojo. She was usurped.
She lost her mojo, meaning everyone's like, she's not that good anymore. The Mona Lisa's the sexy one.
And when we see her, you can tell us why.
Oh yes, exactly.
If you know.
Okay, so we're slowly making our way through these Renaissance paintings by Leonardo da Vinci. There's a statue of a man with his
todger out.
Yeah. Another one. Okay.
More penises. Another Da Vinci one. We're just going quickly because we don't have much time. But obviously you can see it's Da Vinci, we see Mary, we see St. Anne, that's her mother, we see baby Jesus, always the same,
with the lamb.
With the lamb, and the lamb means in paintings of Jesus.
The Lamb of God. What is the Lamb of God?
Well, it's about the
sacrifice?
Exactly, it's about the sacrifice. So a lot of those Renaissance paintings will have Jesus, Mary, John the Baptist, St. Anne or someone like that, and then either a Bible, a cross or a lamb, which, foretelling the crucifixion, the future.
I see, it represents that there has to be a sacrifice, and that is a central theme in Christianity. Obviously, the story of Jesus, we know how that ends, that he died for our sins. That he was a sacrifice for the sake of humanity.
Taking photos in there.
So we're now walking forwards through this large gallery. We're picking up the pace here, walking faster in order to get to the next piece that Amber would like to tell us about. So we're looking at here. Go on. Can you describe what it looks like first?
This is a painting by Raphael. So this is another one of the big Renaissance painters. You know who it is, obviously.
Mary and Jesus and John Baptist.
That's right, exactly. Mary, Jesus and John the Baptist. We see Mary.
Very different to in the previous. They've spent the winter somewhere. They're all blonde now and very, very white skinned.
Yeah. So and they're maybe a bit taller than they were in the previous one. One of them's got a stick. One of them's naked. The other one has got sort of a basic kind of item of clothing on. But Amber, go on.
Well, no, nothing really. It's just that they're both massive Renaissance painters, really respected, really different kind of background you have here. Like Paul said, it's a lot brighter, it's bucolic, it's outside, it's nature.
Bucolic, there's a good word.
Countryside-y.
Yeah, I didn't realise bucolic was an English word.
Bucolic means in nature, like with lots of nature around.
Yeah.
Mary is blonde, she's looking down at Jesus. He's standing on her feet, which is very cute, like children do. Yeah. He's holding in his hands the Bible. This foretells,
the Old Testament, I suppose.
Well, no, probably the New Testament.
Well, how can the New Testament be written before Jesus?
Because it's just a story, it's an allegory. It's not real. It's not a painting of what actually happened. It's a symbolic journey.
So the paint, this is an interesting thing because, at this time in this history, because we're used to photographs and realism, we imagine that a picture is somehow a representation of a thing that happened. But these paintings are all symbolism. It's all symbolic, isn't it, rather than realistic, right?
Exactly, yeah, precisely. And then again we have John the Baptist. He's holding the cross. He's looking up at Jesus. Jesus is looking at Mary. She's looking down at Jesus. Everyone's looking at Jesus. And it has that classic, triangle, pyramid kind of pose.
I do notice one thing that's in common with the last two paintings is that Mary does have her toes. The second one is bigger than the big toe.
There's some people are like that, aren't they? Their second toe is longer than their big toe.
So that must have been a thing, because in all the paintings that's the case.
What does that mean, do you think?
I don't know. My grandmother says it means you're going to live a long life.
Okay. All right. Do we know how long Mary lived?
She lived quite a long life, didn't she?
Probably for the time. I expect life expectancy in those days was pretty low.
You've got a choice now. We can go straight in.
Let's go straight in. Okay, we're going to do it.
What was the other choice? Hold on, what was the other choice?
Well,
not go straight in.
You can see another painting of Mary looking like not great.
No, we want to get to the top prize.
walk past. There were way too many people in that room for it not to be the room.
Okay, we're now moving into another part of this massive museum, away from this main gallery and into a large rectangular room with another high ceiling. It's quite bright in here, and they have those things that they put up when there's a large queue. You know, you get them in airports. What do you call these things?
Stanchions.
Stanchions. Well done, Paul. Wow. Check out the specific...
The only reason I know that is because will I ever do a podcast where I don't talk about a time when I worked at Apple?
Hopefully not.
But obviously, working at Apple, product launches, every time an iPhone came out, the queues were insane, and so we had to bring out the stanchions.
Right, so there are stanchions arranged here in order to, create zigzags, and so that the queues will be managed correctly, and big, massive loads of stanchions, and at the end there is a certain special painting.
Yeah, it's the Mona Lisa, of course.
Yeah, drum roll. Mona Lisa.
Ask Paul.
Right. Do you want me to give you my honest opinion? First of all,
tell us. Yeah.
First of all, I didn't realise when you because I've seen a lot of people taking photos, and I've seen a lot of photos of the thing. I didn't realise it was like so the room is like a rectangle, and in the middle of the room, kind of like if you had like a bookshelf separating your bedroom from the main room in your studio house.
Yeah.
There's like a wall that's up in the middle from the ground up that doesn't go to the ceiling. I thought it was up against the wall of the room.
The back wall of the room.
The room looks very different to how I imagined it. I thought the room was only going to have the Mona Lisa, and from what I'd understood is there's this massive mural opposite, which there is. I didn't realise there was going to be so many other paintings in the room. So, first of all, it's the smallest painting in the room, pretty much.
Yeah.
Which makes it very
it's
impressive.
Yeah, I guess that
Like-
it seems to be quite a modest little picture.
Having said that, the wall all around it, I mean, makes it obviously the centre of the room, because this wall that's been erected is just blue, like dark blue, with her in the middle of it.
Yeah, it's difficult to describe this wall, but yeah,
It looks
imagine
like the Arc de Triomphe a little bit.
it's just like a kind of a stone wall that's just erected in at one end of the room. You can walk behind it, you can walk round it, but it's erected only so that they can present the Mona Lisa. I expect there's a lot of security here. I get the impression that there's probably, lots of alarms and maybe even shutters that come down if anyone tries to steal it or touch it. It has been stolen in the past.
It is the only thing. Yeah, it's behind a glass wall or a perspex, whatever it is.
Behind a screen, yeah.
But honestly, looking at, for me, I can imagine, not that I'm a good painter, but I could imagine, if I was to paint stuff, I could imagine painting something that size.
Yeah.
That's a human-sized, this thing, this mural.
Paul is referring to the mural which is on the back wall opposite the Mona Lisa, and it's huge. I mean, it is absolutely massive. It must be about, I don't know how many meters high that is.
I don't understand how, for me, that painting that is unfathomable. I don't understand where you start painting that thing, and how you know the sizes,
the dimensions, getting all the dimensions right.
Do you start with one human? I mean, there's about 45 humans in that painting, and which one do you start with? What that for me is way more impressive.
It is amazing, and you've got Jesus right in the middle, staring at us.
Yeah.
He's the only one who's making eye contact with us. The rest of them are just involved in their other. No. Some people maybe are looking at us, but certainly Jesus is directly looking at us, whereas all the other characters are involved in other things, and it's very striking when you look in the middle.
So this is where I need Amber. What am I missing that is the most impressive thing in this entire museum?
The Mona Lisa.
Well, it's not the most impressive thing in the entire museum. I mean, you're exactly right. And actually what you were observing is completely true. The human size of it is spot on. It was a commission by a man to paint a picture of his wife. No one's going to want their wife 70 metres squared. The piece opposite that you're talking about is the Wedding Feast at Cana by Veronese. It is the biggest painting in the Louvre. You can't put that in your flat. That's bigger than most people's flats in Paris.
Yes.
You're going to want something a bit more normal. It's can you paint a picture of my wife? Yes. Make it living room size.
But why is a painting of some guy's wife worth more than this massive like feast of Jesus with the thing of like that doesn't fit in a house.
What is the significant? Why is this such a significant piece of work? Why are people queuing up for it, taking selfies and photographs? I mean, they're all probably thinking, well, I better take a photo of this. I know it's special, but I don't really know why. Better not say anything to anyone. But why is it so special?
Value and worth are really complex ideas. There's all that, non-fungible data. Like, what is
tokens?
What is
non-fungible tokens? These are things that are basically, it's too hard to explain.
It's too hard to explain, but it's like, what is something worth? What is its value? Like, these are not intrinsic ideas. Like, it's not because it's this. They become more valuable. Why in Van Gogh's life was he like living, impoverished, and now his paintings are selling for millions? Like, what does it mean? And when it comes to art, it's more complicated. The Mona Lisa is a lot like any celebrity, and we talked about it earlier. She's famous because she's famous. She's famous because she's by Da Vinci. Da Vinci's, of course, a really interesting and complex artist, so his art is interesting independently, especially for other artists, but she spills over into our world, into non-artist worlds, for various reasons. And one of them, like Luke said, she was stolen and it caused a big scandal.
Okay.
And she kind of like hit the newspaper, and that scandal kind of spilled over into other areas of life. And then when she was found again, this was like big news. It changed a lot of stuff. People started seeing her, and then other artists started reacting about this, saying this is bollocks. Why is everyone losing their mind? It's just a painting of a woman.
Right.
And they started, the Duchamp with it, she's Elle est chaude de cul, that painting, and Andy Warhol redid her in pop art. Her image became bigger than herself.
Yeah.
And it's her celebrity which is famous, more so arguably than the actual piece, even though the actual piece from an art point of view is an interesting painting. Like, we could go close and look at some of the details, and I'm sure you'd be like, wow, that's really cool.
I do like it. I actually do like the painting. I think, she's got this enigmatic smile, as people always say, and the background is fascinating. Like, what is going on in the background? There is the incredible landscape behind her, and also, like you said, her being famous, people. There's a lot of interest in it, and then Dan Brown decides to include her in his book because that's going to capture people's imagination, and then Ron Howard makes a movie about that book, and then suddenly it's become immortalized again in a movie with Tom Hanks, and people start going, there is lots of sort of secrets and mysteries about this painting, and so people just become fascinated by it without really knowing why. It's a fascinating study into human nature and psychology and stuff.
Is it like, out of the paintings that he's done, is it like technically like the best? Yeah, did he use techniques in his other paintings that were not as good? Is this like the refined? Is this like the, if you were doing comedy stuff, like the Dave Chappelle, like the, is this his final special, where it's like he's honed his craft and this is the final one, or did he do other ones afterwards that were technically better? Like, what's the?
No, I think from a technical point of view, you're right. It is a sort of honing of his craft, making something incredibly delicate. And it's interesting because a guy did commission him to paint it. It is a picture of a real woman, and he never gave it to him. He never fit. That's the mystery. Why were you still tinkering around with it? Like, he really liked that painting. He brought it with him from Italy when he moved to France. He was always sort of apparently, changing it and adapting it. He never finished that commission and gave it to that man.
So the guy never got the picture of his wife because Da Vinci held on to it and continued working on it. Yeah, what was going on? And that makes people speculate, like, was Da Vinci having an affair with her and blah, 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 and stuff.
No evidence of any of that. I mean, that speculation, is it Da Vinci in drag, da-da-da, who's the woman, what's going on? That just comes around from her celebrity,
Yeah, right,
and when we say the Mona Lisa, you know what painting I mean, so it's an easy reference.
Yeah.
If I said, oh, Paul, did you see the Belle Ferronnière? You're going to be like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, and I guess it's the, if you were to bleed it over into humans, as opposed to artwork, like, it's kind of like a Kim Kardashian thing where she's known for being known. Like, she she doesn't do anything specific. It's not like Steven Spielberg, who's known for making films, or Ed Sheeran, who's known for making music, or the Beatles, the music. It's like she's just a celebrity. She's not even like a TikTok person or a YouTuber. She literally just is. She was on a TV show, I think, but that to me, so it's basically like that.
She's part of our collective consciousness. consciousness.
Yeah.
It's a very fascinating thing.
Exactly. So if you want, we could look at the painting behind her instead. Should we look
behind? In front, opposite her.
Mona gets to look at this painting, and this was a painting you mentioned, Paul.
The big one.
We can do a big one. Okay, we'll do a few minutes. Right, you can do some art history deduction. So what is the painting? What do we see?
Perhaps stand in the middle.
Let's go.
So we can see it in all its glory. Listeners, I'm aware that obviously you're all desperately wishing this was a video, but it's not. It's audio, so you only have to focus on the words, which is good, isn't
also,
it?
If you're really interested, you can Google everything that we've seen, and you'll be able to find the paintings that we're talking about. Like you said, art history. I never did art history ever, so I don't know anything. All I know is that it looks a little bit like The Last Supper, but a bit more festive. There's more people invited to this one.
There are many people. Shall I describe it, Amber? So you've got, I don't really know how to describe the location, but there are many columns on either side, and then we've got a sort of a kind of a mezzanine or a balcony, and in front of that there is a large table set for a feast. The table is in the sort of the sort of U shape or C shape, which is the perfect shape for me for a large group of students in an English language class. It's my preferred desk arrangement. Anyway, and there's lots of stuff going on. As I said before, right in the centre of the table there you see Jesus Christ staring right at us with, is that a halo? A halo around his head.
Is that Mary next to him with also a halo?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then in front there are musicians playing music. There are people. There's all sorts of festivities going on. All sorts of interesting people from different sort of origins. It seems you've got people with, different ethnicities in there, and all sorts of interesting characters. Each one is fascinating to look at, and there's lots of action, lots of things going on between each person, lots of talking and disputing and entertaining, and magic being displayed, and people drinking and eating, and just so many things to look at. Dogs and wine being poured, and all sorts of stuff going on. And there's the sky in the background with birds and clouds.
There's meat. There's looks like the guy in green over there's a butcher. He's butchering some sort of meat that's being served on the plates over there. That's maybe going down to the feast.
Exactly, and there are people standing and looking down, and all sorts of things going on. It's a very, very vibrant and lively scene. Amber.
Well, you've actually teased out quite a lot of the information. So you can see it's a feast. It does look like the Last Supper because you've got Jesus in the middle, but it is more festive. So it's not a feast. It's a wedding feast. So it's a wedding, but it's also one of the miracles of Jesus. What miracle is it?
Oh, turning bread into wine. No, sorry. Turning water into wine.
Exactly, you nailed it on the first go.
If you turn bread into wine, they'd be like, that's great, but we've got no bread now.
But never in France. The French would never accept bread into wine.
No.
Exactly, turning water into wine. You can see that Mary, she's holding her hand, it's empty. We've got this wine being poured, and like this guy here, he's like, what is this wine?
Okay.
He's having a look at the wine going, this wine seems interesting. What is this? And there's another one being served the wine on the other side there.
Exactly. So Jesus is in the middle. I told you it's a wedding feast. Where is the bride and groom?
Where are the bride and groom? Are they just? Is this after the wedding? Are they perhaps consummating the marriage behind closed doors?
Well, we think they must be over here on the left-hand side.
Of course, right,
but you'd imagine that they should be right in the middle. But it's not about their wedding. It's about this miracle. Paul, you noticed something really interesting: the meat being chopped. But the meat being chopped, if you look carefully, they're actually having their dessert. They've got sort of fruit on the table.
Yeah.
The meat's symbolic. What is the meat symbolic of?
The body of Christ.
Yes, but more.
I don't know, the religious
is it
body.
The sacrificing lamb situation.
It's exactly the sacrificing lamb situation, because where is the meat being sacrificed? Cut.
Oh, right
above Jesus.
Right above on the mezzanine or balcony, right behind Jesus.
Right above his head, he's being chopped up. So you kind of have this knife poised in the mezzanine just above his head. If you look down into the foreground, you can see, and it's kind of hard to identify this, but I know this is what it is, so I'm going to tell you. This is like a sand timer. Those.
Oh yeah, an egg timer.
An egg timer sort of thing.
On
musicians.
the table between the musicians. Yeah.
And this again, it's also symbolic. It represents, time and how fleeting time is, and of course. So this painting, to give you some context, was painted actually. Luke, you said that they're all busy talking and having a good time. But if you look carefully, even though
They're all sad.
there's 130 characters in this, and at the time you were paid by personage, so this was like a really expensive piece, no one is talking. It would have been silent because this is a piece that would have been in a monastery in the refectory. So it was these like very, very wealthy sort of monks that have had this. You know, you're not allowed to talk when you eat, the monks. So that have been contemplating this like really incredibly opulent piece with lots of sort of symbolism. Lots of people they've painted in these people around here are actually famous celebrities of the times, you know, kings and queens from other places, which of course were not there. And this is Veronese, the painter, in white, playing that instrument there. He painted himself in, and all the musicians, this is Titian, who's another famous artist, these are all contemporaries of Veronese, who are all artists.
So
he's
they're
made
all
them
doing,
into
it's like French comedy films where they have all of their French comedy celebrity friends like make a 3-second cameo.
yes.
Lots of cameos. It also reminds me of the front cover of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band to an extent.
The colours, yeah.
With all the colours and all these different faces, lots of sort of, I guess, famous people all presented, and some sort of a special occasion on display.
It is, but we have to go because
We do.
What we've done is you've seen downstairs, we saw some sculptures, we saw some Renaissance. You have to come and see just quickly the French paintings before we go. These are the other really, really, really famous ones, but we've only got 5 minutes.
We do, I'm afraid.
I realised earlier on, I was talking about somebody playing a video game. I realised that I think the Louvre actually, their audiobook is in form of a Nintendo DS because everyone's got one around their neck. So I don't know what that is. I guess you can maybe do like a cool like discovery thing.
Yeah.
It makes sense to have a video game kind of thing.
It's their little media guide where it gives you information, I suppose, in different languages, and you plug headphones in, you can listen to an audio commentary.
The gift shop.
And there's a gift shop as we walk past.
So I'm going to show you now.
Okay, so let's have a look at these French paintings. The period that these come from, we will find out from Amber. Yes, listeners, there are so many things in this amazing place. We can't cover them all, as we've already said. Walking. I wonder how many steps we've done.
I'm just going to show you this so quickly. It's not the most famous painting by far in this room, but this is Francois I. And if you look up high in that balcony there, you can see the Belle Ferronnière, who was meant to be his mistress, and the Mona Lisa, just randomly painted in. It's just a random...
Oh, so you got the Mona Lisa and what was her name?
The Belle Ferronnière.
Belle Ferronnière, who was also painted by Da Vinci.
Belle Ferronnière, the one with the light on her
We
face.
saw her earlier.
They're just in the corner.
Oh,
They've been-
Sorry, yeah, I see what you mean.
So these two characters from these other famous paintings have been included here in a sort of, I don't know, bit of intertextuality there.
Loads of these paintings are really fascinating with excellent stories, but I don't have time to tell you them. I'm just going to show you this one because it's so famous.
Okay.
This is the coronation of Napoleon, the second biggest piece in the Louvre. You see Napoleon crowning his empress, that's Josephine. This is the Pope, obviously looking pretty sad, as he should do. He wasn't in a good mood. This is Notre Dame, amazing piece of painting by David, who is a revolutionary/Napoleon painter.
Wow.
You've seen it before, probably.
This one is less familiar to me, but it is absolutely spectacular. And the period for this, which I want to know. I always want to.
Well, I'll tell you as we walk.
It looks like Regency era sort of stuff.
This is the 80. So Napoleon was crowned in 1804.
Yes.
And so the painting was commissioned at that point and painted a few years afterwards.
Yeah.
David, he was famous as a revolutionary painter. So he painted, you know, the Marat dead in the bathtub. You know that painting?
I don't know. I'd know it if I saw it, probably.
He's kind of like lying in a bath and he's got his arm out, and Lady Gaga did it. Loads of people have reproduced it. He painted that.
Okay.
And so he was kind of big with revolutionaries, and then he went to prison, and then he kind of comes out and is big with Napoleon. He's got a lot of paintings in that room. That's his most famous piece, most recognisable, is that Coronation of Napoleon. There's two paintings you have to see in here. I won't have time to tell you the story, even though they're amazing, but you'll recognise them probably.
Wow, some amazing pictures of battles here, and then the Napoleonic Wars, no doubt. Some incredible scenes.
Yeah,
okay.
This one I recognise.
So here we have another massive painting, and it appears to show some people trapped on a raft On the open sea, it looks like a terrible scene, an absolutely horrible scene of. Oh, I don't know what to say really. They're all on this raft out in the ocean. The waves are very high.
Are they? Oh yeah, it is. Yeah.
And it looks like some people have died on this raft. They're waving white sheets into the air, desperately trying to get help. It's a desperate state of affairs that they're in. It's horrible. So, Amber.
So this was painted by Jericho, and it represents a true story, and it caused massive scandal when he showed it at the time. There was this big shipwreck, and there wasn't enough lifeboats for everyone, so they made this raft and put on like 150 people, obviously the poorest people. It was going from France, I think, to Senegal, and they were going to tow it. They didn't. They chopped it loose, and it sort of drifted for nearly 2 weeks, I think. And obviously the majority of people died. There was questions that they resorted to cannibalism. It was terrible. Jericho, he repaints this, and in fact he went into great detail, remaking the raft, remaking the ship, interviewing people that survived, taking bodies from the morgue and watching how they disintegrated, how they rotted, and like painting it. And he paints a moment of false hope. So if you look in the distance, you can kind of see this boat, and they do get rescued by the English actually, but not straight away. The boat goes to Senegal and comes back, and so it was really shocking because of the subject matter, because it looks so awful and so desperate, and also because it was a comment on this French ship and this French fleet, and just like, what's going on? It was terrible, but it's a really famous piece.
I've just realised that Jericho, because for me Jericho is like Jerico or CKO, like the spelling. When you said, because I've never heard it said with an English accent. Yeah. Jericho.
Yeah.
It's in French it's spelled Gericault, Jericho, whereas for us it's Jericho, Jericho, as Paul said.
CHO, that's it. I couldn't figure out what the ending was.
Yeah. Well, what an incredible piece of work, and yes, as you study it, you start to notice like things that are going on, and some of the people are lying on top of each other. Are they dead, or is one of them maybe taking a bite out of the other one?
Yes,
exactly. Wow, really impressive stuff.
And there was also a comment underlying it. Jericho, this was the time of abolitionism. He was an abolitionist, so slavery.
The abolition of slavery, yeah.
We see that the main man right there at the top waving his sort of sheet of whatever cloth. He's the hero in this story. This is
H&M t-shirt.
It's an H&M t-shirt. He's taken off his tee. He's black, so there is a sort of comment on he's our hero. He's our savior.
He's the protagonist of this story potentially. So that's interesting. We talk about representation in Hollywood and stuff, but here we have representation in a painting from the 18th or 19th century. 19th century, yeah.
And Beyonce, we talked about it earlier, she came around the Louvre and she dances, or her team dances in front of various paintings, and she was looking for representations of people of colour in art. And let's face it, there's not that many.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
One last one, because you can't.
I was going to ask you.
I do have to go. I'm waiting for the delivery of the IKEA kitchen, which is it's so drab. And anyway, here I am in the Louvre, surrounded by these amazing works of art. And
you recognise that, right?
My kitchen's going to be delivered. What a come down. Anyway.
Well, you tell me.
Do you recognise that?
I do recognise this. This is a painting which seems to show a scene from the French Revolution, and it looks like a moment, probably the storming of the Bastille, the prison in Bastille, which was a decisive moment in French history, and it represented that time when the uprising, the revolution happened, and there's a female character holding aloft a French flag over this scene of destruction and battle and victory, and yes, her dress seems to have come loose and revealing two naked breasts, which is something you do see this image a lot in France. You see it just in various places in adverts and so on. Is that Madeleine?
It's Marianne, isn't it?
Marianne. Sorry, that's what I meant.
Mate, you got to get
I know. I've got to get
ready for your French nationality. Jesus.
I know. If I take the citizenship test and I get that question wrong, I'll be like, sorry, non, c'est pas possible. But yes, some naked breasts on display. So I mean, I think probably for a lot of people coming in and looking at this, the first thing they notice is the boobs, is her breasts which are sticking out. So, well, is that significant, Amber? I imagine if you're in a battle, you might pop out, but it's going to be hard to keep them in, in all that struggle and stuff. But tell us about this, Amber.
In terms of revolution, a bosom might pop out. I mean, they don't seem to be she's having a wardrobe malfunction, we could say. Yeah. You're almost right. It wasn't the French Revolution of 1789. It was the French Revolution of 1830, the Trois Glorieuses, where it's a different revolution. Okay. Although it doesn't really matter in a way. It's this painting by Delacroix, huge French painter. It's interesting because, you see, this is Liberty, the goddess, and also Marianne. So she's Marianne, the symbol of the French Republic, liberty, and she's striding across the battlements. You can see she's a goddess, she's got this perfect skin, but she's in profile, her face, like Greek statues, that was considered better. She's holding the tricolor flag in one hand and like a gun in the other, like with a bayonet. She's ready to go. She's barefoot, her feet are dirty, her breast is exposed, she has underarm hair. This is like, she's a goddess and a woman at the same time. A lot of goddesses are completely, epilated, smooth and perfect. They rise above things. They're untouched by their surroundings, and she very much looks like she's like in there. And he was criticized for this because it was like, this isn't how you show goddesses. At her feet we see she's literally walking over the fallen, and the people who have fallen are in disarray. He's trying to show this kind of awfulness. See this guy's got no pants on and no trousers or pants.
Is it a dead body lying there? Yeah, and he's got no trousers on, yeah, and another dead body lying with his ribs, he's clearly decomposing, starting to anyway. So yeah, lots of disarray and. But there she's rising above it all, holding the tricolor, which is, billowing in the breeze. It's amazing.
Exactly. You see Notre Dame in the background. Everything looks like it's on fire. And you see the representations of all parts of society. You see these children, this kind of Gavroche figure from Victor Hugo. You see a sort of guy in a top hat. He's obviously wealthy. And you see this working class gentleman over here. So she is really leading all parts of society into this next revolution, changing everything. And of course she's the only representation of a woman in this painting. It's very masculine. But I mean,
the character down at her feet, is this not a woman?
I don't think so. I think that is also a man.
Okay.
Although, it's an ambiguous, you could say, could it be a woman? But, she's very much female in this very violent environment.
Yes. Fascinating stuff, Amber. Really, really fascinating. Thank you so much for telling us all about it.
There are so many pieces in this room as well. That Delacroix over there. The Ingres paintings. Really loads that you can go into. But they're kind of interesting when you can look at them for longer than a minute.
But yes, because, the temptation is just to sweep through this and look at, we've got to get all of them. It's like Pokemon, got to catch them all. No, it's not. You don't have to do it like that way. You got to just take your time. But it really helps to have someone who knows what they're talking about explaining it to you. And yes, it's really worth spending a bit of time on each one. And just a question. So, do you still do like guided tours in Paris? Are you available?
I am available for guided tours in Paris. But we tried to do this quite quickly. But you're probably quite tired anyway.
Yes. Yeah, and I've got to deal with the delivery of our IKEA kitchen now, which is going to be perhaps more exhausting than this. Well, we're now making our way back through the museum. We're going to go back to the cloakroom to get our coats and bags, and then we're all going to go our separate ways because we've all got things to do. Amber's got to pick up, is it Hugo?
Yep.
Yeah, so Hugo's in school. Amber's got to go and pick him up. Paul's got to go and get what?
Well, I'm actually going to London tomorrow for the day, so I've got to go and reserve all my tests and stuff and fill out passenger locator forms, and I've got to get myself a test today, blah blah blah, whatever, and then I've got my live this evening.
Yeah, your YouTube live this evening with Nathaniel Drew, is it?
Correct.
Okay, the YouTube sensation, Nathaniel Drew. When are you going to get Amber and Paul on the YouTube live then, Paul?
Amber and Paul, that's me.
That's you, isn't it? Duh.
When am I getting?
You know what I mean. Amber and Luke.
You are both coming on December 6th.
Okay.
Did I say 6th or 3rd?
I think you said 6.
Okay, so 6th. December 6th, Monday, 8 p.m. French time. Listeners, you can see me, Amber, and Luke having a drink and chatting with you guys.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. All right, so we're just leaving the museum now, back into the main area there where we were at the beginning with the big pyramid. And so, listeners, that has been our very quick tour of the Louvre. Very quick in terms of the time and also in terms of the speaking speed. I think you'll all agree. I think we probably were going double fast for various reasons because there's so many things to say and not enough time to say them in.
How long is this podcast?
It's now an hour and 30 minutes.
Oh, that's all right.
It's all right.
We did an hour and 30. That's a pretty good. I think that's a really good. I mean, there's obviously a ton more stuff to see, but I'm happy I saw it after being here for 12 years, living next to it for 2 years, never been in.
Yes, I do think it's fascinating, especially looking at those larger paintings where there are many things going on and working out what the symbolism is and sort of speculating about what it all means. I do think that's fascinating. Very, very good stuff. Okay, well, I think it's probably time for us to say goodbye. I might add something at the end briefly in post-production, but for this recording here and now, we're going to stop where we started.
Yeah, we're back exactly where we started.
Directly under the glass pyramid. Guys, thank you so much. Amber especially, thank you for telling us so many interesting factoids.
Yes, thank you. You're welcome. It was a good, speedy visit.
That was brilliant, Amber. Really good.
We'll have to go on a lesser-known Louvre next time.
Yeah, maybe some of the lesser-known highlights. Maybe next time. Paul, thanks for joining us. It was really good to see you.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for being. I'm finally back on the podcast. It's been ages that we've all been on the podcast together.
Amber and Paul are on the podcast. Wonderful. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's say bye-bye to all the listeners. Thanks, listeners.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you are. That was a whirlwind tour of the Louvre, wasn't it? And there was a lot packed into that one. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe learned a thing or two as well. Remember, you can see pictures of everything, I think, that we saw and talked about. And you can see all those pictures on the page for this episode on my website and also on the YouTube version of this episode. And if you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to whack that like button with a hammer, if you like, or a chisel or a paintbrush. I don't know. Click the like button and subscribe as well. And don't forget to click the bell icon and all those other YouTube type things. Thank you again to the Pod Pals. It's always great to have them on the show. Maybe they'll be back soon. I hope so. Now, if you liked this, then you must listen to Amber's podcast, which she is still doing, by the way. I said this at the beginning of the episode, and I'm now going to say it again. So, Amber's podcast, it's called Pan Am Podcast, and you can get it wherever you get your podcasts. I think. Is it on Spotify? I'm going to talk to Amber about that today. I'm going to see her today, this evening. Because I'm recording this on Monday, the 6th of December. So this evening I'm going to go to Paul's studio to do his live, YouTube live, and Amber will be there too. So I'm going to ask her, hey, Amber, is your podcast on Spotify? And if not, why not? I'll say it in the nicest way possible. Like, Amber, is your wonderful podcast on Spotify yet? And would you like me to help you do that? I don't think it is at the moment. But anyway, if you're using a normal podcast app, then just search for Pan Am Podcast. You can find the episodes, you can download them and listen offline and all that good stuff. Okay, so Pan Am Podcast, also the website panampodcast.com. In her episodes, you can hear Amber telling some fascinating stories about the history of Paris. And you can just enjoy the lovely, lovely sound of Amber Minogue's voice. So check it out. And a reminder that Amber and I, well, this is one of those time travel things, isn't it? I'm actually recording this in the afternoon of Monday the 6th of December, and I am in about half an hour, I'm going to leave and go to Paul's studio in order to do his live stream. But you'll be listening to this after this date, so you can still watch the replay. Okay, so just go to Paul Taylor's Happy Hour Live on YouTube and find the episode from Monday, the 6th of December, 2021, of course. And you'll be able to watch it. And I have no idea what we're going to talk about, but we'll be responding to comments and things like that and generally having fun together. Thank you so much for joining us in this episode, everybody, especially you. And let me know your thoughts and comments and responses to this episode in the comments section on my website or on YouTube or wherever it is that whichever bit of social media you happen to be using. I will speak to you again soon, but for now, it's just time for me to say goodbye. Bye, 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 bye. Thanks for listening to Luke's English podcast. For more information, visit teacherluke.co.uk.